The American dream is over for the average man. The American dream is over for the average individual. Really take a step back and ask yourself, what did the American dream mean to you? Who told you what the American dream was, and what does it mean to you?
一个美国小伙的这番话呀，引发了外网上很多人的思考。一位网友说，他叫做美国梦，是因为它只是一个梦。还有人引用了一位已故美国脱口秀演员乔治·卡林的经典名言
The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
开头提到的美国小伙啊，具体讲了现在美国普通人生活的难处。
What a lot of us like to do is we like to point out the top percent of people. Well, look at this billionaire. Look at this millionaire. That's not the average person's case. The average person's case is they're going to have to work 40 hours a week. And nowadays, you can't even work 40 hours a week. You have to be working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You have to have a side hustle on top of your full-time job just to maintain.
还有一个美国人说，现在他们的问题的确很多。
That's the truth. It feels like America's becoming unlivable. It feels like there's more and more problems happening in the US. Working on stuff I don't want to work on just so that I can pay a mortgage on a place I don't really care to live in, so that my family can have a good life. There's more to life than just working all day to pay your bills and to pay for your healthcare and to pay for your gas and to pay for your car and to pay for your rent. I don't feel like that's what I want to do anymore. And I think that a lot of people are starting to feel this. I think that a lot of people are starting to wake up to the reality of what we've been told to do our whole lives. Lucky for me, I don't have student loan debt. That would make things so much worse. I see people who are getting into so much debt, you can't even get a job with a degree.
这个博主在外网上发了一期视频，题目叫做《美国梦已灭，还留下来图什么》。视频当中啊，他比较实在地讲述了现在对美国人来说的难处。
It feels like we just work all day to pay for our bills. It seems like our money in the US just isn't going as far as it used to, with inflation and the way that prices are for rent and everything just being so expensive now. It really feels like making $100 grand a year doesn't mean anymore.
除了生活成本方面，他还特别提到了安全，因为他说在去过其他地方之后啊，经过比较，他觉得现在的美国的确并不安全。
I know that feels like, oh, well, you want to leave your country and you want to go to all these other places, but you'll come back here if things get rough. Well, yeah, sure, of course, because our safety is more important at that point. But the truth is that probably nothing's going to happen. Everywhere we look and everywhere we plan on going seems like super, super safe. All the research we do, we keep looking, and everything seems so much safer than the United States. And I know that you can take like 5 cities out of the equation in the US, and the US would be super safe. But I see the local news. I see what's going on just down the street from where I am. And I see that it's not good. I see that there's people being robbed, there's home invasions and carjackings. Yeah, statistically, it might only be a small percentage that it happens to, but it'd be silly to think like that stuff isn't happening. And I grew up in the ghetto. I've got friends that are serving life in prison. I've got friends that are dead. I was arrested a bunch of times as a juvenile. I had friends that were doing home invasions and carjackings when they were 17 years old. So I understand how dangerous it can really be in this country. And then I go and I look at these places that we're planning on traveling to, and it's like, oh, you might get pickpocketed. You might get scammed. And here I am thinking in America, like, dude, I'll go into Costco or Walmart, worried some psycho's going to show up in there with a and the place. I don't know. It's super stressful. This feels like a rant. It's kind of like where we're at. And the more we think about it, the more it feels like it's the right thing to do. And the more it feels like it makes sense to do this. Call it escapism, call it being wanderlust, call it whatever you want to call it.
看了外网上的一些美国博主的视频之后，我发现美国年轻人现在对于美国梦的理解和追求啊，似乎逐渐变化并趋于理性了。比如一个美国女孩这样说
The American dream is pretty much dead. So it's not completely dead, but it is dead in the way that we knew it growing up. If you take the exact same steps that your parents did to try and achieve the American dream, you're probably not going to get there. The results are going to be very different. Like, I feel like every company increased their prices just for the hell of it, just because they could. But we're reaching a breaking point where are these companies even going to make any money because no one's going to be buying anything because Jeff Bezos just has all the money? This has probably been kind of depressing to realize all of this, right? But there is still hope, okay? I think it's important to know all of this though, because a lot of people are still planning out their life and going about everything as if we have the advantages that boomers had economically when we do not have that same buying power or affordability at all. I think you just cannot achieve the American dream with a normal job that is a W-2 job with a salary, unless maybe you're working in tech, or if your parents are rich and, you know, they can kind of subsidize your life.
海外网站上有一个视频热度很高，标题叫做为什么年薪10万美元也买不来美国梦。这个标题要是咱们网上谁起的，估计很快就会被冠以美黑的标签吧。但是这个视频呢，我看了一下啊，感觉呢还是有理有据的，并不是单纯的喊口号。比如视频当中这个美国女士说的话
I think unfortunately what has happened is that wages haven't kept up with the cost of living by and large for the last 50 years or so, and so it becomes increasingly hard for many families to be able to attain.
生活成本啊，算是物质层面的，或许还有精神层面的东西。比如一个外网大 V Second Thought 的视频，为什么你永远无法实现美国梦里面提到的
The American Dream. A house in the suburbs, a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, a dog, and enough disposable income to save for retirement and go on a couple vacations a year. Hate to break it to you, but statistically speaking, you'll never be able to afford the American dream. At least, not the way things are now. The American dream is dead.
此处呢，我省去了很多内容，因为涉及的话题较为敏感。但是大体我一说呀，您就明白了。他举例子包括了前阵子美国大学里边的事情。他认为美国梦也包括思想和言论上的自由，但是他觉得这些正在美国消亡，所以梦将无法实现。作为美国人啊，他们可能比我们更加懂得什么是美国梦，所以他这样说。
Long time ago, where I feel like the American dream is, it still feels that way. I still feel like that on a regular basis. I don't want to be ungrateful for being an American. I understand where people are coming from when they say that America is great, because I think there are some great things about America. But the current state of the American dream itself, it feels like it doesn't exist anymore. And I feel like I've reached the mountaintop of that American dream. I've worked my off to get to where I'm at, and I understand the concept of the American dream, but it's time for us to make a change.
常常啊，我会在我们的网络上或者是海外网站上看到很多说中文的人讲述他们心中的 American dream。那是一个遍地是黄金，充满了人生希望和梦想的地方，只要你来就能实现的那个 American dream。所以他们一个个趋之若鹜，乐此不疲，甚至即便追梦失败了，生活窘迫了，甚至流落街头了，他们也要咬着牙说一句：你们永远也不懂什么是自由，什么是美国梦。别说现在我们中有些人啊，的确比美国人更懂更信这个梦了。或许他们有自己的想法吧，当然美国人呢也有自己的初衷，谁也别想轻易说服得了谁。我也不下什么结论了，咱们就是听听美国人怎么说的，开个眼界，引发您的一点思考就好。我也别说什么梦想消亡这样的话了，文雅一点的结束今天的探讨吧。就像这个美国小伙说的，改变已经势不可挡的来了，只是有些人啊还不想面对现实而已。
Movement is happening. A movement is happening. A lot of people can deny it, but a movement is happening. There are people who are not accepting this.